Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about important straits and also canals of the world. This is going to be very important for the mapping question that is asked in the UPSC prelims examination. So first of all, let us try to understand the term itself. What do we understand or what do we mean by the word strait? So in simple term, strait is a small narrow channel of water which basically connects two large water bosses. This can be two different seas, and it is a type of an oceanic land. If we talk about entire Earth, almost 200 straits are there approximately around the world. If you talk about the strait, generally, if you look at the strait, this is how a strait look like. On this side, we have landmass number 1. This side, we have landmass number 2. This side, we have water body 1. This side, we have large water body 2. And a strait is this narrow channel that is situated between two landmasses and connecting the water body 1 and water body 2, which are very large in size as compared to this particular water channel. And as far as the flow of water in strait is concerned, generally the water flow occurs on the surface almost at the same level from both the sides. Most commonly, it is a narrow ocean channel that lies between two land masses. Now, all straits around the world are not navigable. Some straits are non-navigable. Example, those straits which becomes too shallow that no ships can pass through that because the water level will be very less, and the larger ships especially they will have difficulty in passing through such a small or such a less water depth. Or many times the straits are there, they also become unnavigable because of presence of a reef or archipelago, which is nothing but a group of island that is situated around the strait region. Now, out of the 200 straits that are found across the world, some straits are considered also as a choke points. So, what is a choke point? Now, choke point is nothing but a strategic strait or canal which could be closed or blocked to stop sea traffic, especially to stop the flow of oil from one region to the other region. This type of aggression could surely cause an international incident, and that is why in year 1982, under the aegis of United Nations, a law of sea convention, also called as UN clause, was signed, and the main objective of signing this UN clause was to protect the international access for all the nations to sail through the straits and canals across the world, and even ensure that these passageways are available as aviation routes for all the nation. What it means is basically, if you look at this, this is the strait. This side we have land mass 1, land mass 2. This side we have the water body 1, water body 2. So not only this strait is navigable and accessible to all the countries, also the airspace above the strait is also quite accessible to all the countries of the world. So in today's video, we are going to discuss about these major straits which also act as a choke point between different parts of the world. So the first we have to discuss about is Strait of Gibraltar. Now, if you look at first the location of Strait of Gibraltar, it is situated between the continent of Africa in the south and the European continent in the north. Basically, it is a narrow water passage that is connecting the Atlantic Ocean in the west and the Mediterranean Sea in the east. Overall, the strait is average 13 kilometers wide, and basically it has a United Kingdom's tiny Gibraltar colony as well as Spain on the north, and on the south side in Africa it is the country of Morocco, and also a small Spanish colony is there that is situated to the south. So the strait is basically we can say it is situated between these two land masses. Now, as far as the history goes, United States warplanes were forced to fly over the strait, as 1982 this 1982 UN Clause Convention says, when they were trying to attack Libya in 1986, because France would not allow the US to pass through the French airspace. And several times in our geological history, if we talk about this particular strait, it was blocked due to the geological activity. This area is also well known for large scale volcanic eruption, and due to the plate tectonics, there is a lot of geological activity that occurs in this area. So several such geological activity has happened in the past, and due to this, the block of the the block of Strait of Gibraltar was basically blocked, and thus water could not flow at that time between the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea. And obviously, if water is not able to flow, if the fresh water, or we can say less saline water, is not able to flow from Atlantic Mediterranean, gradually what will happen? Due to continuous evaporation, the salinity level in the Mediterranean will go up. And this point has improved also because at that time, when the salinity level increased to such an extent, some of the salts began to settle at the bottom of Mediterranean, and that is why we can see a large concentration of salt even today at the bottom of Mediterranean Sea. So that is the evidence of the geological activity that has stopped the passage of water from Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. These days, the strait since it provides a very small area between the African continent and European continent. It is also used these days for illegal emigration from Africa to Europe. Not only from Africa to Europe, but also many people from Asian countries which are war ravaged in nature. For example, Syria, we have Lebanon, we have Afghanistan, Iraq. So many people from these countries they migrate to Africa because it's easier for them due to the less we can say easier visa regime, and that is why once they reach to Africa they pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for agents to cross them, to facilitate their crossing from Africa to Europe via the Strait of Gibraltar. As far as the movement or circulation of water between the Atlantic Ocean on this side and the Mediterranean Sea on this side via Strait of Gibraltar is concerned, as Mediterranean Sea is a small water body and also it is have higher salinity, water in the Mediterranean Sea sinks at the bottom, and thus water from the Atlantic Ocean, which is having lower salinity, it flows through the Strait of Gibraltar at the surface toward the Mediterranean Sea, while at the bottom or below the surface, water flows back from Mediterranean to the Atlantic Ocean. So this kind of circulation exists or takes place between the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea via again very important Strait of Gibraltar. The second important choke point which we can talk about is one of the most revolutionary artificial canal project that was commissioned somewhere in the past century, that is the Panama Canal. Now, Panama Canal, first of all, you try to understand the location. It is situated in a small country of Panama, which is a Central American country between the two large land masses of North America and South America. And the Panama Canal is artificial canal that has been dug through this small Panama nation. It was completed in 1914 and overall its length is only 50 miles. It basically is able to link the Atlantic Ocean in the east and the Pacific Ocean in the west. The most important contribution of this particular canal project was that it was able to reduce the length of journey between the western and eastern coast of USA by almost 8,000 nautical miles. 8,000 nautical miles roughly come to be somewhere about 11,500 kilometers. We try to understand this in the normal term. So basically how it has helped us in sorting the distance, we can understand from this map very clearly. In the absence of Panama Canal, when there was no canal route between Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, suppose a ship has to move from New York City to San Francisco, that is from the eastern coast of US to the western coast of US. Now, the only possibility for the ship to reach to San Francisco from New York is they have to travel and traverse the entire stretch of South America, and then they travel the entire stretch of South America on the western coast, and they reach here via this particular route, which we can call as the route number 1. Now, once the Panama Canal has been opened, you can understand the distance has shortened to such an extent from 20,900 kilometers to just 8,370 kilometers. And that is why it is considered as one of the most important navigation project in the entire world till now. As far as the recent record goes, almost 12,000 ships pass through the Central American Canal every year. United States retained control of the 10-mile wide canal zone until the year 2000. However, in the 2000s, the canal and the control of the canal, administrative control of the canal basically were turned over to the Panamanian government. So that is the other important choke point, Panama Canal. The third important choke point, which was a very significant water body, very significant strait, is what we refer as the Strait of Magellan, which has reduced whose significance we can say, whose importance has been reduced after the digging up of the Panama Canal. So before the Panama Canal was completed, boats traveling between the US coast, as we discussed, from the eastern coast to western coast or western coast to eastern coast, were forced to round the tip of South America. And it is along the tip of South America, the southern tip of South America, the Strait of Magellan lies just to the north of the southern tip of South America and is surrounded by two countries, Chile in the west and Argentina in the east. Basically, if you look at this map here, it is the Tierra del Fuego Peninsula of Chile, of Argentina, that is situated here. And on this side, we have the Punto Arantas, which is a part of Chile. And this blue route, as you can see, refer to the movement of the ships via this strait that is called the Strait of Magellan. The strait is considered as the most important natural passage between the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. Obviously, Panama Canal is also significant, we can say, interlinking passage between the Atlantic and Pacific, but that is a artificial project. Now, during the California gold rush in the mid-19th century, there were many regular trips between the East Coast and San Francisco, and that time, a lot of ships used to flow or used to basically move through the Strait of Magellan. Then after the next is in the Asia, very closer to us is Strait of Malacca. Strait of Malacca, as we can see, is situated in the Indian Ocean, and the red region that you see in the map here is represented actually represents the Strait of Malacca. So basically, it is a narrow stretch of water which is almost 800 kilometers long and somewhere about 50 to 250 kilometers wide, situated between the Malay Peninsula to the northeast and the Indonesian islands of Sumatra in the southwest. And as far as the connection of water body is concerned, the Strait of Malacca connects the Andaman Sea of the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea of the Pacific Ocean. Now, the Strait of Malacca is very important from commercial economic point of view because over 94,000 vessels pass every year through this particular strait, and this comprises almost 25% of the world's maritime trade, which include important commodities such as oil and Chinese manufactured products, coal, palm oil, and Indonesian coffee. Not only that, even from the perspective of the crude oil trade, almost 25% of the crude oil trade by the sea passes through the strait, mainly from the Persian Gulf to the Persian Gulf suppliers to the Asian market, especially Japan, South Korea, and most importantly, China. Almost 65% of Chinese crude oil import occurs via the Strait of Malacca, and that is why China currently is very much dependent on the Strait of Malacca. And this is something that is also referred as Malacca dilemma, because Indian Navy, if suppose some adversarial conditions develop, a warlike situation develop between India and China, Indian Navy can very well close this Strait of Malacca, basically choke the Strait of Malacca, and the Chinese economy can come to standstill. And it is due to this reason precisely China is looking at alternative routes, and that is why they are focusing more on maritime silk belt route, or we have the Gwadar port where they are trying to build natural gas pipelines, oil pipelines connecting the Gwadar port in Pakistan to the Xinjiang province of China. So this is mainly because of the extreme dependency of Chinese on the Strait of Malacca. Not only that, they're even looking at the possibility of exploring the polar route or Arctic region route, because now the ice is melting in the Arctic region, and that is very easier for the ships to move to that area, so that they can have 3-4 alternative route for transfer or the export import of their commodities in case the Strait of Malacca is basically choked by the Indian Navy and the other countries here, for example, US as well. So that is about the Strait of Malacca. Then as we go toward the European region, we have two major straits, that is Strait of Bosporus and the Dardanelles Strait. If we first try to understand the location on the map, basically Strait of Bosporus is situated between the Black Sea region in the north and a small sea that is called as Sea of Marmara in the south. In between this, we have the city of Istanbul, that is also ancient capital of Turkey. Now, if we talk about the Bosphorus Strait, it exists as a bottleneck between the Black Sea, largely from the Ukrainian port, and now to a large extent the Russian-occupied ports in the Black Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea in the south, of which Aegean is a part. So basically, if we try to understand this water connectivity in this region, from Black Sea via the Strait of Bosporus, we enter into the Sea of Marmara, and then via Sea of Marmara through the Dardanelles Strait, that is shown here in the yellow diagram or yellow figure. Through that we can enter into the Aegean Sea, and that is a part of Mediterranean. So Turkish city of Istanbul, it is adjacent to the Bosphorus in the northeast, and south strait is called as Dardanelles. The Bosphorus Strait and the Dardanelles Strait sit at the opposite end of the Sea of Marmara and are together collectively called as Turkish Strait. Why Turkish Strait? Because the Turkey is the country that you can see here shaded in the green color. It has complete control over both these straits. That means, in other way, we can also say that Turkey has a complete control over access to Black Sea from the Mediterranean Sea region. And that is why in the recent time when the Russia-Ukraine war is going on, the Turkey many times the role and the importance of Turkey has been highlighted to facilitate the movement of the ships from the Black Sea or into the Black Sea. Next, coming to the West Asia, we have again a very important strait that is referred as Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is situated between the Persian Gulf on one side and the Gulf of Oman on the other side. For example, in this map, if you try to look, this is our Persian Gulf and this is the Gulf of Oman. As far as the countries bordering Strait of Hormuz is concerned, on the north we have the Iran, and on the south we have two countries, that is UAE and Oman. Oman basically, as you can see from this tip, this is the exclave of Oman. This is main Oman, and then we have the exclave of Oman, and this side we have the UAE. Basically, it is the Musandam Governorate, that is an exclave of Oman, that has a complete access to the Strait of Hormuz. Now, it provides the only sea passes from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean and is also one of the most important strategically choke point of the world. Yet another critical point in the lifeline flow of oil from the Persian Gulf. Whatever oil is generated or produced in the Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, these basically pass via the, or even from UAE, they basically pass via the Strait of Hormuz. Almost in terms of volume, 33% of the world's liquefied natural gas, that is LNG, and almost 25% of the world's crude oil consumption passes through this particular strait. And since this strait is very, very vital to ensure and to ensure the supply of oil across all the globe, it is closely monitored by the United States military and its allies in this particular region. Then further, as we move more towards south, we come across another very important strait that is called as Bab al-Mandab Strait. Now, Bab al-Mandab Strait basically can be translated in English as Gate of Grief. Bab is gate, L is off, and Mandab is grief. So it is gate of grief. Basically, it is called as gate of grief because in the older time, in the ancient times, many sailors used to die when they used to basically collide with the large rock structure that you find in this particular area. So basically, it is a strait that is situated between Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula. As you can see from here, we have this Yemen and Djibouti and Eritrea in the Africa. Basically, these are the countries that are situated in the Horn of Africa. So Bab al-Mandab basically provides connectivity between Red Sea in the north and Gulf of Aden in the south. And again, the Gulf of Aden is opening toward the Arabian Sea. So in one other way, we can also explain that Bab al-Mandab provides connectivity between the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea in the Indian Ocean. Now, located between the Red Sea and Indian Ocean, Bab al-Mandab is a bottleneck for sea traffic between the Mediterranean Sea and the Indian Ocean. Because if you try to understand through Mediterranean Sea, if ship want to enter into the Indian Ocean, the only way possible for them, of course, if we avoid the going through the entire Strait of Gibraltar and passing through the entire African continent, the only economical way possible for them is to enter via Suez Canal, then pass through the Red Sea, then enter via the Bab al-Mandab through Gulf of Aden, and then from Gulf of Aden they can enter into the Indian Sea, Indian Ocean. From Indian Ocean they can go to the Pacific Ocean, they can go to the Atlantic Ocean because there is a good connectivity between all the three oceans, especially in the southern region. So that is the Bab al-Mandab. And as far as the commercial importance of this strait is concerned, estimated almost 3.3 million barrels of oil passes through strait per day out of the total world trade of 43 million barrels per day that is moved by tanker. Again, since Red Sea is a small enclosed narrow water body, the salinity of Red Sea is quite higher as compared to Arabian Sea, and that is why as far as the movement of ocean current in this region is concerned, the salinity of Red Sea is higher. So water sinks in the Red Sea, and on the surface, water moves from Gulf of Aden to the Red Sea via Bab al-Mandab, and then we have the outflow that happens below the surface from the Red Sea to the Arabian Sea. So this is the kind of water circulation that flows, or water current that flows between Red Sea and Gulf of Aden via Bab al-Mandab. The next important, as we just have discussed about the Suez Canal that provides connectivity between the Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea. It basically connects the Port Said region of Egypt in the north to Port Suez in the south. It is almost 103-mile long water body and is entirely located within Egypt. And not only that, it is the only sea route that connects the Red Sea region and the Mediterranean Sea region. Now, obviously, with Middle East tension, the Suez Canal has, and in the past, has also been a prime target of many nations. The canal, obviously, is artificial canal, was completed in year 1869 by a French diplomat by the name of Ferdinand de Lesseps. Then British took control of the canal, and then from 1882 until 1922, the canal was in complete control of British. Finally, after independence, Egypt nationalized the canal in year 1956. This was also followed by Six-Day War that occurred in 1967 between the Arab nations and Israel. Arab nations were largely led by the Egyptian forces, and during this war, Israel seized control of the Sinai Desert, that is Sinai Peninsula. You can see from here, situated on the eastern side of Suez Canal. We have Sinai Peninsula, and the Israel took control of Sinai Peninsula, but then later on relinquished control in exchange for peace in this particular region. So that is why it is a very, very important water body. However, if you try to understand, this water body basically is connecting your Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean, and thus if suppose a Chinese export or import has to happen between European countries such as France, Italy, England, and then the only possible route or only good route for them is to move from the For example, if you talk about the trading between England and China, so the only possible route is that the ships has to move via Mediterranean Sea. Then from Mediterranean Sea via Suez Canal, they will enter into the Red Sea. Then from Red Sea via Bab al Mandab, they'll enter into the Gulf of Aden, and then from Gulf of Aden they'll enter into the Indian Ocean. And again through Indian Ocean, they will pass by the Strait of Malacca that we have discussed, and then via Strait of Malacca they will enter into South China Sea, and then they will enter into the China. They can go to the China, Korea, Japan, all these countries. However, China and other Asian countries are looking at the other alternative route that is called as Northern Sea. So basically, because we have discussed due to global warming, continuously we are witnessing shrink in the Arctic ice, and that has made the Northern Sea route feasible for the commercial cargo ships between Europe and East Asia, especially during the summer month for a period of 6 to 8 weeks. Basically, it has shortened the voyage by thousands of kilometers compared to the actual Suez Canal. If we try to understand this, look at this map here. The red route here is shown is the conventional route passing through the Suez Canal, while the blue route shown here is actually a northern sea route that is connecting the East Asia and the Europe, basically UK here in this case, for example. So according to polar climatic researchers, as the extent of the Arctic summer ice pack recedes, the route will become possible without the help of icebreakers for a greater period each summer. And most recently, a Bremen-based Beluga group, that is a commercial shipping group, they have claimed that in 2009 they have become the first Western company to attempt using the northern sea route without assistance from the icebreaker. And that is why, if it becomes reality, then we can also see a large scale movement of the shipping vessel via this blue route network. And that is why, taking this in mind, China has also released its policy, which is called as Polar Silk Route policy, where it tries to develop a maritime route via the polar regions. So that is about the alternative route. Then coming to the next other important choke point is what we call as Strait of Dover. Now, Strait of Dover is a very small strait, a narrow water body that is situated between France to the east and England to the west. Basically, it is part of a water body that is called as English Channel. If we talk about the control of this strait, it is completely within the territorial waters of the France and the United Kingdom, but a right of transit passes, as we discussed under UN Clause 1982, allows vessels of other nations to move freely through the strait. Most of the maritime traffic between the Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea and the Baltic Sea basically passes through the Strait of Dover. So basically, this also is a very, very important choke point and very important strait in ensuring that there is seamless connectivity between the northwestern European countries such as Scandinavian countries, Baltic countries such as Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and the North Sea countries such as Poland. And then from there, through North Sea, it can come to Strait of Dover. We have Netherlands, Belgium, France, Portugal, and then we can enter through the Mediterranean Sea via Strait of Gibraltar, then as we discussed, then via Suez Canal to the Red Sea, then via Bab al Mandab to Gulf of Aden, and then Gulf of Aden to the Indian Ocean. So that is how we can ensure seamless connectivity between different regions of the world, and we can understand now that the straits and such canals, narrow waterways, plays a very, very important role. The last choke point which we can discuss about is Bering Strait. Now, Bering Strait is situated between two large landmasses, North America in the east and Siberia in the west. Siberia is a region of Russia here. So, situated between two oceans, Pacific Ocean in the south and Arctic Ocean in the north. Basically, it separates the Chukchi Peninsula. Chukchi Peninsula is part of Russia, and Seward Peninsula, that is the part of Alaska, the 50th state of USA. Maybe you know that Alaska earlier was part of Russia, but in some point in history, US purchased the Alaskan landmass from the Russia. The strait is named after Vitus Bering, whose picture we can see from here. He was a Danish explorer that belonged to Denmark, but was working for the Russian Empire. He was in the service of Russian Empire. And the most important point, what we can remember about Bering Strait, that the international date line, the imaginary line that we have drawn, along which or across which the date changes. That means if you move from east to west of the international date line, what will happen? You'll have to add one day, and if you move from west to east of the international date line, you'll have to subtract one day. So that also passes through the Bering Strait. So that is all about the important straits of the world. Also, we discuss about the major choke points of the world, their location, their importance, significance, and what is the historical background. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.